so many familiar faces out there. Fantastic to see you all. I hope you're enjoying yourself a bit more. I'm pretty boring, so it doesn't move away from there. Yeah. That sounds a bit better. Can you hear me up the back? Can you hear me? Yeah. Excellent stuff. Well, before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge and repeat what Rebecca said for our major sponsors, AMC Consultants down here, represented by Patrick Smith, and White and Case, represented by John Tibby. Without you guys supporting us, we wouldn't have great events like this. So once again, thanks. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, what a lot of familiar faces I see in the audience today. Many of you have been part of the great Victorian gold journey we've all been on today, and today's topic is something that's very close to my heart and close to all of us, really. We've assembled a panel here of experts representing all parts of the emerging or re-emerging Victorian gold sector. Actually, and as I look out there, I see many people, too many to mention, unfortunately, who have played a leading role in driving the Victorian gold industry to where we are today. Today's speakers represent three arms of the Victorian gold industry. We wanted to cover the full spectrum: the regulator, the explorer, and the producer. Get three different angles on where this wonderful industry is going. Our gold producer is Campbell Olsen, Managing Director of Arete Capital Partners, operators of the Stawell Gold Mine. Campbell is a Victorian, hailing from Mildura, and an engineer. After a global career in mine management, Campbell has taken on the role at private equity investors Arete Capital, acquiring the mothballed Stawell Mine in 2019. The mine has been successfully restarted and now employs more than 250 people in Stawell. Arete has not only revitalised the closed gold mine, but has added to mine life, and also not just through in-mine discovery, but he's also, Stawell Gold Mines has sparked an accelerated search and discovery program in the Stawell corridor. We're going to hear a lot more about that. And also sponsoring the listing of North Stawell Minerals in 2020. I drove past his front gate last week, and there looked to be a lot of activity going on there. We'll ask him about that later. The Melbourne Mining Club is delighted to welcome John Krbaleski to the stage today. John is the Head of Resources at the Department of Jobs, Precincts and Regions under the portfolio of Resources Minister, the Honourable Jacqueline Symes. John assumed this role a year ago, just in time to oversee the incredible increase in interest in the Victorian gold sector. Nice timing, John. John has over 20 years' experience in developing and implementing energy and resources policy in Australia and overseas. He holds an honours degree in economics and is a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors and has completed the Senior Executive Fellows program at Harvard Kennedy School. Our explorer is Ian Holland, geologist and Managing Director of Navarre Minerals. Ian has been front and centre in the reinvigoration of the Victorian gold industry. Many of the audience will know Ian from his role in building Fosterville Gold Mine from the mine's near extinction as Perseverance to being a vital part of Canadian gold giant Kirkland Lake. Fosterville is a huge success story in the Victorian gold industry. In the December quarter just gone, the Fosterville produced nearly 192,000 ounces of gold. It actually might be 2019. Apologies, guys, I know you're out there. Ian joined Navarre late last year and is driving the exploration effort on Navarre's impressive footprint with projects at Irvine and Laggy Logan, and with Catalyst at Tandara, which is just north of Bendigo, at Jubilee, south of Ballarat, and currently drilling at St Arnaud and getting good silver numbers at Glen Lyon near Arete. It's quite a program. I don't need to tell this audience that exploration is the lifeblood of the gold sector. More than $200 million has been raised from equity investors in the UK, North America and Australia in the past 12 months by companies focusing on the search for gold in Victoria. That's a wonderful number. We have around 37 companies listed on global stock exchanges focused on gold search in Victoria. The market cap of this distinguished group is more than $1.1 billion. If I add a notional value for Fosterville Mine, let's take that closer to $8 billion. KL Gold, and I acknowledge the Fosterville crew there on table 21, is spending more than $85 million a year on exploration on its Fosterville leases. Campbell is going to tell you about what Arete and friends are doing at or near Stawell, and I think we'll be pleasantly surprised about what this investment is uncovering. I note a few economists in the room as well as John. We all know that exploration spending, the stay-in-business capex and the salaries paid by our gold companies fuel the local economies of the mining centres across regional Victoria. If Victoria's explorers are investing $150 million a year in the ground, there's arguably, in rough numbers, a 5 times multiplier effect on that investment and spending in the local community. That money rolls around the local community supporting jobs in regional Victoria. It becomes the lifeblood of the local community. Exploration spend investment in the December quarter was a whopping $42 million, despite being COVID constrained. That's up 420% from 5 years ago. We are the fastest growing state for gold exploration in Australia. Although our 42 mil compares with 480 mil spent in Western Australia in the same quarter. Any West Australians here? Apart from Chris Cairns, of course, out there, Chris. And Jennifer, of course. Anyway, back to this drilling. And what if this work, this drilling, this exploration leads towards the development of a new mine? Let's dream. Let's dream for a second and think that Catalyst and friends can work up a mine development at Four Eagles, Tandara. The capex there for, say, 100,000 ounce a year mine would be, say, around $200 million. These are my numbers. And would employ, say, 200 to 300 people in construction phase, and perhaps another 200 people in the operating phase. There's a multiplier effect through the community here as well. Perhaps, maybe, let's say 4 jobs created for every one in these construction and operating phase. Maybe I'm being a bit optimistic, but I am a stockbroker. And best of all, this impacts mainly in regional Victoria. A 100,000 ounce a year gold mine may create 1,500 to 2,000 jobs as that money rotates through the regional economy. And what if we have more than one mine to emerge from this exploration boom? Perhaps Navarre at Irving, Staveley, of course, there at Glen Thompson, Chalice at Pyramid Hill. The more we explore, the more likely we are to find something. I think Brian Phillips always tells me that. Victoria produces more than 700,000 ounces of gold a year at present. What if that number were more than 1 million? Ian Holland, we don't explore just for the sake of it. Navarre is the most cashed up it has been in 10 years. The company has been listed on the ASX. You have early mover advantage in some exciting exploration in Victoria and in joint venture with Catalyst north of Bendigo. What is it like to explore in Victoria? Where are you focusing, and how do you make the most of this early mover advantage that Navarre's got?
Yeah, great stuff, Richard. Thanks very much for the opportunity to talk today and to talk about the Navarre story. Given that Navarre has been listed now for 10 years, and you know, its history is very much the recent history of the Victorian gold exploration space. I might cover that, and there's probably a couple of key linking themes here that I'd like to explore upon. You know, one of the things that we talk about a lot in Navarre, and I'll acknowledge my colleague Paul Hissey, who's in the room, is this idea of ideas and capital needing to meet to get the result. So let's talk about the ideas first, right? So. You know, do we accept fundamentally that Victoria has a great prospectivity? I think we absolutely do. The great early mover advantage that we had here is that you know, the founding managing director Jeff McDermott, who's also in the room, and the team past and present at Navarre were able to really assemble these pieces in an environment where there was less competition for some of these critical pieces. So if you look at the Navarre portfolio, you know, we have 100% owned, you know, a 70-kilometre strike length south of the Stawell mine and the Stawell granite. And this is elephant country for those style of deposits, and I'll talk more about the results that we're seeing. We've got a really significant holding at St Arnaud, at 2,000 square kilometres, including the old goldfield, and that's really been neglected in modern times, and we're drilling our first diamond holes there now. The more recently acquired, but the Jubilee Mine, which is an historic gold mine, high grade, 25 kilometres from Ballarat, which again hasn't seen modern exploration. Plus the work that's happening with our partners, so Tandara, which is a joint venture with Catalyst, and the earn-in agreement with Staveley. So, there's this really great set of properties and lots of potential. But what you need is the second ingredient as well, right? You need the capital. So what we saw in Victoria, and this is absolutely no reflection on any of the people or companies who were involved in the time, but we saw some hiccups to that process 10 years ago with the ideas of trying to rejuvenate Bendigo and Ballarat as large-scale operations, and what it shows is it's tough. Some of these things are difficult. The ideas are great, but they're difficult. What we needed as an industry was to have a great success story, and that's what we had with Fossil. So that we are, as the human psychology would have it, we can try to grapple with the abstract, but what we actually need is the analogue. We need something to see, and that's what investors follow. What we've seen then is that flood of capital, the $200 million raised, as Richard touched on. So now it needs to result. So from a Navarre perspective, we are lots of activity. There's 7 rigs in total across the properties. We're seeing results, and this morning we put out a further announcement on diamond drill results in the Stawell corridor on our Resolution and Adventure lodes. But fundamentally, that's coming towards a maiden resource, and that's a really big step, I think, for the junior sector in Victoria, because what we need for this boom to be sustainable and sustained is discovery to lead to resources, to lead to development, to lead to production, and then capital will stay. So that's a really, really critical piece. So
thanks, Ian. Thank you very much for that, and nice segue onto Campbell. Of course, he's got the Stawell gold mine there. It's been there since the early 80s from my memory, and but what took you there, Campbell? Why did you acquire and invest in the mothballed Stawell gold mine, and how has that investment unfolded?
I think primarily because it was for sale, Richard.
I asked the easy question. I get softball one to you.
Yeah. Hugh and I spent a lot of time talking about this particular transaction over a year, and I think we both came to the conclusion that the Victorian gold wasn't done, and there was plenty more there. And Stawell really represented for us a very low-risk entry into production, which we were looking for. It was close by, it wasn't in the middle of a desert, and it wasn't on a shitty mountain somewhere in the tropics. It was out in the Western Districts, which is lovely. It had been an unloved asset for some time, so it was ripe, and I think you lived through those periods as well, where very much an orphan asset. We like those sort of challenges. We come from an operating background, all of us there, so that was sort of fitted us really well. And we sort of bucked the trend a little bit in that everyone had considered that it had been mined out. We found a little bit of data dating back to, I think it was SD 06, which is on the eastern flank, and found that they drilled down looking for some monster lodes and hit this mineralised zone blanket over the thing, and we thought that was pretty interesting. And then Troy Cole, the GM there, had got a bit of a black budget from KL, and drilled across there and took a couple of bulk samples out, and they all returned 6 grams at decent tonnages. So we thought that there was plenty of upside. And so that's really it, due diligence in a nutcase. There's a lot more than that.
Yeah, I can imagine. And as a segue then, again, you've kept on exploring in mine. Any light you can sort of shed on that?
Yeah, we've focused on the eastern flank and the surface. We've found 8 new fields under there. We're putting about 500,000 ounces a year into the table, and we've capped it at about 5 ounces a metre. We capped about 100,000 metres a year. Our best hit was only a couple of months ago, where we got 1,206 metres at 6 grams down plunge, which we thought was only 100, but it just keeps going and going. And so that's really good. So the stories of Victorian gold demise are somewhat overdone. And, we continue at North Stall as well. What we found, what we discovered is, let's call the Magdala Dome a 10 million ounce dome over the life, about 6 million through now. It might be more, it keeps going. What we found with North was 17 more similar domes. We know some of them are mineralised, so that's what we're focusing on drilling out now to find out the extent of that mineralisation. But you don't need too many more Magdala domes in that region there to have a pretty successful business.
Well, hold on to that thought, because I'm going to come back to you on that. But I'm going to go to John Krbaleski now. John, you've been in the role of Head of Resource for a year now. We've seen big demands on the regulator to stay on top of this gold boom. How's it playing out for you and your team?
It's a real privilege to be in this role at this fantastic time, because this is jobs, wealth and opportunities for Victorians out of this sector. And we're tackling it a number of ways, because you talked about all the records being broken, and it's every other week that we're breaking a record, whether it's expenditure or production, and it's terrific to see that flowing. So we're lucky enough to have a passionate minister, and during this budget she was able to get us some additional funds, 1.1 million to be precise, and that's gone to a surge force within the regulator. So we're turning the handle a lot faster. We've got the capability and capacity to do that. But we're also working smarter. So we've done an independent review of our processes working with industry. So that's getting from the weeds the advice as to how we can sweat the machine a bit harder. And that's produced some efficiencies as well that we can take into, dealing with the licences that are flooding through our doors. And that's terrific. But it's not just about that. What we're planning to do is tackle something that's been there for a little while. Industry would know this. They've come to us and had a chat to us about the Act. So there's some laws of gravity around the Act in terms of how the regulator operates, how community is consulted. And I think there's some real benefit and opportunity there, and we're looking to grab that opportunity over the course of the year and continue to deliver for a sector that's delivering for Victorians.
Well, certainly the feedback I'm getting from the industry is that it's a new look, and it is a much better organised department. But one of the unheralded parts of your department, of course, is the Geological Survey of Victoria. I mean, what a fantastic history that has. And can you give us a little bit of colour about what the focus is there and where it might be headed, and just for our audience here today?
Yeah, sure. So there are 3 parts to my team. We've got the survey, we've got the regulation and the legislative part, and we've got the regulator. So it's hard to pick between your children, but I do have a soft spot for the Geological Survey. They do just terrific work, and they've done it for a long time. One of the oldest surveys in the year. I think we're coming up to almost 170 years, and it's just critical information that they provide. They tell us what's under our feet. They help industry by de-risking their investment. So they don't do it on their own. They collaborate. So our team collaborates with Geoscience Australia, and we've done some great work across the state. So our early work in the West produced some terrific results in terms of attracting people into the Staveley Arc. We've done it again through the North Central region. We've got a tender underway. I can't talk about that process, but it's great to see a strong response. Yeah. And this is the work that our crew do. We've got a great asset in terms of our Werribee Drill Core Centre, $2 billion of drilling there. We're curating that through the survey. But we're also looking to the future. Where to next? How do we get our next Staveley, our next Fosterville in terms of what's the end game? As you said, exploration's great. How do we get there in terms of that opportunity and cementing these things into Victoria, these jobs, and they happen in regional Victoria.
Come on, John, you can tell us who's going to get Fosterville. Come on, just leak it out a little bit.
I can't do that, but I'll talk mineral sands, I'll talk copper. We are blessed with amazing resources, and back to where we started, it's the GSV and the incredible work that they do.
Campbell, the work of the GSV, did that have any impact in just you taking up exploration area and the float of North Stall and perhaps any other work you're going to be doing in that sector?
Oh, look, I think it all helps.
Yeah.
It all helps. A lot of work. Ross has been terrific. With the basic understanding.
Ross Cayley, yeah.
Yep, and the guys have been terrific with just the basic geological understanding. We're a bit more micro than that. We're very focused. That's from us. It's terrific to have a macro understanding, but we're pretty much focused on the corridor, the Stall corridor, and east and west of that. So that gets pretty tight. That's only a small part of what GSV does, and where our guys are probably they're leading edge in that exploration stuff there now because we've been doing it and drilling out and doing all sorts of stuff that I don't even, as an engineer, don't even pretend to understand half the time, but.
Oh, sure thing. You wouldn't be an engineer if you weren't bagging a geologist there.
Well, they just make it so
have
easy.
You been? How hard are you whipping Steve Cambanis there? Hard enough? Or?
We don't want to know.
Yeah. Oh no, he's under the pump. He's got some big KPIs, and he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
The rigs are spinning out there. I was out there this week, and getting through that Murray-Darling Basin cover, which is pretty shitty. Yep. But once you're down there, there's lots of gold down there.
Yeah. Speaking of rigs and new ideas, Ian, it gives us a little bit of colour around Jubilee, which seemed to, be processed very effectively and seems to have been a pretty good program all round. Can you give us a bit of colour there?
For sure,
Yeah.
Richard. And look, this is a real plug for the department as well. So, recently acquired project. It was closed in July last year. We've already been on the ground to do a geophysics program. We've followed that up with a 3,000 metre air core program, and diamond drilling will be next. So it's been a terrifically smooth process in that.
What was the thinking there? Is it a new way of thinking? I mean, we've spoken before, and you were mentioning east-west structures there.
For sure. So pardon the geology now, Campbell, but
sorry, you'll have a sleep now.
Yeah, we have. So with Jubilee, there is a pretty unusual setting. There's a transverse east-west reef system, which is not typical for central Victoria. And I wouldn't want to overplay the analogy, but there are some similarities with that, with some of the setting at depth at Fosterville. So we were looking for those sorts of analogues and possibilities, and Jubilee is certainly one of those. So hadn't been touched really since 1913. Hadn't seen any modern exploration, appreciable anyway, and we're able to take that forward. So.
Well, sort of outside, say, the deeper mines, the mining centres, say Ballarat, Bendigo, Castlemaine, Stawell, a lot of places, they didn't really get down that far. I know Michael Hudson, who's here today, took me up to see Sunday Creek, and we were talking there about, very little drilling really going below 80 metres. And then I look across at Western Australia and say, why are they so successful? And when in a lot of places, they're only just revisiting where the old-timers had successful shallow mines, and lo and behold, it keeps going down. Well, is that the same sort of...
Absolutely.
Is that an opportunity in Victoria, do you think?
So it absolutely is. And what I point to is what we're doing at St Arnaud. So, the catalyst for us here was securing the title over the old goldfield. something like 400,000 ounces of historic production from St Arnaud, a number of shafts, but only one of them got to any depth.
Yeah.
The Lord Nelson got to 300 or 400 metres depth. Everything else was 100 metre or less. So what do we do? I mean, what you do in Western Australia is you drill under the old workings, and so that's what we've commenced.
I mean, it's not as simple as that, but it's a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Campbell, going back through Stawell, have you been surprised at the new life that's been demonstrated by the exploration in mine?
Very thankful, that's for sure, for my syndicate investors.
Yeah.
Have been. There's lots of new learnings come out of that. Just reflecting on a name some in the room may or may not know, the Wonga.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I'm sure most people, some will have understood the Wonga. We're looking at the Wonga now, and we've got a dedicated team on board led by a very capable geologist. Very capable, Bill, thank you. That's surprising us because, we're of the view that that's a intrusive related system which post-dates the original mineralisation, and it's very high grade, and it looks like it could be extensive. So that's to the south of the mine, so we've creatively called that South Stawell Gold as opposed to North Stawell Gold. So, and when we find east, we'll go east as well. But those sort of things were misunderstood when they were closed down, and we've looked at it with fresh eyes and put a bit of money into it, and there's some real legs in it, but it's getting to understand it. There's only ever been one intrusive related mine in Victoria, and that's the Wonga. And it was closed down before the whole theory on intrusives was really developed. So it was mined differently, and now we're looking at it a different lens. I think that's got the potential to be very, very, very large around the perimeter of the Stawell granite. So that's why we've gone and pegged all Stawell granite.
Well, and look, that leads on to another thing. You mentioned the investor support for what you're doing. Can you give us a bit of colour about how you see the investment money environment for Victoria? Is it good, bad, ugly, green light, yellow light, red light at the moment?
I think
From
there's
your
two
own
things.
experience.
Yeah, I think there's two things. One is gold. There's money for gold everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone loves gold. And I think the Fosterville story has really shone a light on Victoria, both as a jurisdiction and a country, the sovereign risk. And I recall back to, we did a bit of a trip just before shutdown. I was in London and Toronto and New York talking to a bunch of investors, and they were absolutely fascinated with what was going on out here, and were very keen to get access to Australian gold, or in particular Victorian gold. And I must have fielded a dozen calls from crazy Canadian stockbrokers wanting to buy, or mining companies wanting to buy Stawell, or wanting to get in, or wanting to do deals, or wanting to know when Fosterville blocks are going to come up, all that sort of stuff. So there is an appetite. There's still an appetite there. It's just asset scarcity is the issue, and that was a big one driving us as well. There's just not that many quality assets around yet in production. So there's lots and lots of gold. I think when the Victorian government came out and said, we think there's 30 million ounces left or something. Well, we think there's more than that in the Stawell corridor alone. So producing assets is going to be the issue. So we're nearly mill constrained. So we're looking to triple the size of that at the moment. We've got a project on to go to 3 million tonnes.
Well, I'll let you get together with John and discuss that.
I haven't told him yet.
Actually, John, putting your economic hat on, I mean, I might have been a bit, perhaps a little bit over the top in some of my showing how this investment rolls through. But the department, to what extent are you fielding inquiry from a wider global audience? How are you coping with that? And have you any sort of insights into what they're looking for and why they're coming here? I mean, it should be obvious, but yeah.
We are fielding inquiries, and Danny's in the audience from Invest Victoria, so it is running hot. Why are they coming? I think it's on the back of the work that the GSV's done, on the back of the production numbers and the results that are coming through. So, but I think you can get that set of numbers. You also need the confidence in the legislation in the policy environment. I think they can get that in Victoria. The other critical thing is, where's community at? And I think That's where we've done a lot of work. I know the sector's doing a lot of work. You do need a licence to explore and mine. You also need one, a social licence to get the stuff out of the ground. And I think that is another piece of work that the department's working very hard on, that the government's working really hard on. Regional Victoria's going nuts in terms of investment, and we're out there demystifying what exploration is. It's low impact, we're talking about the benefits, but at the same time, housing the regulator, we're talking about how environment, how community interests are protected in that process. And I think the shoulders drop when you talk about that. And yes, there'll always be different views about the sector, but I think it's a different conversation when we've been out there and we've done the pre-work. We certainly found that in Staveley ahead of that tender. When we got to advertising those licences, generally there were a lot of objections. With that experience, there were hardly any, because people knew where the geology, they knew the basics about the regulation, and they knew where to go to get assistance around if you were a farmer and it was on your patch, around compensation agreements and your rights. So that's all work that government does alongside industry, and that's got to be there going forward to realise these opportunities.
And it's a matter of talking, isn't it? I mean, it's a matter of just talking it through, and I know there's quite a new broom, I think, coming through, and you know, people got to talk, and jobs, it's important. I mean, I was talking to a farmer from down where Chris Cairns is, and I thought, oh, you bite my head off if I say you might have a copper mine around here sometime, and he said, no, we need the jobs. We need the jobs. So kids, got to give the kids something to do. Yeah.
Indeed.
Look, before I go to the audience, and with a question, I hope you all got one lined up there. I do want to ask. I've got Ian here. I want to put him on the spot and say, Ian, when you were toiling away there at Perseverance in the shallow stuff there at Fosterville, did you ever have any inkling that what might be down there in the Swan Zone?
So the reality is you never know, right?
Yeah.
And the you know, the great success really of Fosterville was staying in the game long enough and continuing to reinvest with the support of successive owners to be able to be in a position where you could make that sort of discovery. So absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, good on you, mate. Now, it's a bit of interactive time here. Oh, Rebecca, how are we going? We got a question from the audience here. Oh, there's one over there, I see, yeah.
We do, and if I can just remind people to state your name and your affiliation as you ask a question. We'll have two mics roving the town hall. First question.
Richard, William Morgan from AAA Future Energy Fund. The Close the Gate angle, Victoria, we've got a lot of traditional underground mines, and we're looking at Fosterville at Staveley that's less than 100 metres for the drilling results so far. Interested in how that angle might play out in Victoria.
Can I throw that one at you, John?
Sure. I guess going back to the work of the GSV and community opposition to onshore gas development, the government came to the department, came to the experts and said, give us a scientific assessment of the risks, benefits and impacts of an onshore conventional sector. And that's what we did. There was 3 years of work that was done with community, with unions, with industry to get to a bit of advice around the risk, benefits, impacts of an onshore industry. That's the same approach that we take to any disturbance of ground, and that's the approach I think that we'll take forward in relation to that issue or any other issue coming up in the sector.
That's good. Thank you. Nick, who we? Yeah.
Richard, I can see.
Dennis O'Neill from Resource Futures. My question sadly won't be about gold. It's another issue that I think is alive and well right now. Prime Minister last week released a statement which amounted to a roadmap in relation to development of critical metals as part of the modern manufacturing strategy. I'd be interested to know from John what steps the Victorian government will take to achieve greater value adding coming out of perhaps the renaissance of mineral sands mining in the state, and in particular what activities can occur to help the community understand how dealing with issues such as radiation and the safety around further value adding in that sector can be satisfactorily dealt with. Thank you.
Terrific opportunity there in mineral sands, and we've certainly got strong investment. I think the critical thing there is, and we're on to it, is to work hand in hand with the Commonwealth Government, because it's a Team Australia approach. Certainly the resource here is here in Victoria, and we'll make our own assessments. But I think there is strong collaboration with the Commonwealth Government on this issue. There's a great opportunity, and of course we're all looking to value add, and that's part of the engaging community to say this is the value that we can capture if we are able to step it up in terms of capturing more of or capturing production here in Victoria. I guess going to the environmental or the radiation issue, again, it's back to the science. That's what we do. We unpack the science and we present that information for government, who are the ultimate decision makers, in a way that includes all stakeholders. And we've had a mineral sands. We've had mineral sands here in Victoria before. And as I said, there's some great opportunities there that we'll look to expose and capture that value going forward. I think it is one of the terrific areas for Victoria that we'll look to explore further in the coming years.
Thank you, John. That's a good answer there. And I noticed Joseph Paterica's he would have been very interested in that answer there as well, the mineral sands. Yeah.
Peter Arden from Bell Potter. Congratulations on putting on this event. I think it's really a key way of what I wanted to ask about getting advanced, and that is that theme of how do we get greater recognition for the incredible opportunities in Victoria, the prospectivity, as someone who's battled for nearly 30 years to achieve a better sounding for Victoria. I guess, in terms of success, the Canadians seem to be greater at recognising outside of Victoria how good Victoria is. So how do we get the locals? And we've got a few parochial Western Australians across the border who sometimes come over here, but how do we get the message out better?
Thanks, Peter. Good question there. I might, from a money question, go to Campbell on that, and then to Ian, if you give us some thoughts on that. Sure. Yeah.
Thanks, Peter. How do we get the recognition? Bring back the big V? Oh, that'd be good.
Make your miners wear a nice shiny big V. No.
Yeah, I look at, what's the answer? You've just got to get out there and do it, I guess. Miners have just got to get out there and dig gold and silver and stuff, and that brings a life of its own. And we can't wait around for government policies and that sort of stuff. We've got to work within the bounds and just keep driving forward, and it'll look after itself. As I say, look after the downside, and the upside will take care of itself. I don't know what the answer to the question is about getting recognition other than just delivery, just deliver. It's interesting. It's a similar thing mentioned on that critical elements. I mean, I don't know how many times I've heard critical elements frameworks from governments over the last 20 years. They all recognise it, everyone recognises it, but no one does much about it. Yeah. So you just got to go and build a mine and get it done.
Yeah, that's it. Ian, you've pitched to foreign investors enough times in your illustrious career. You got any hints there? How can we get Victoria's star? Up there?
Yeah. Well, the answer is really simple. I think it's success begets success. Yes. So we have $200 million of equity raised for exploration in Victoria last year from the numbers that you quoted. That has to yield something. And it has to yield discovery, it has to yield resources, and then it has to yield development and production. And the capital will stay then, so the profile will stay and the recognition will stay. So, yeah, success begets success.
John, any thoughts there at all?
We've got IMA coming up later this year. I think that's
Great
always
showcase.
an opportunity, one of the Grand Slam events in terms of the mining conference calendar. We're always there. Victorian government's a big supporter. We're always at PDAC. So as a government, we are always talking up the opportunities, and through our minerals strategy, we've got some targets there in terms of what we want to see. We want to grow the met sector. We want a modern outcome-focused regulatory framework. So I think it's all there, but it's on government to work with industry to talk about that.
Thank you. Yes, Shoddy.
We've got one down there with Richard.
G'day guys, Ian Hand, Kirkland Lake Gold. Congratulations so far on the session, guys, really interesting. I suppose my question goes to, I'm an optimist. There are going to be a whole heap of discoveries made, and I'm with Ian. You drill the holes, we're going to find it, and the mines will be there. What I see is a bow wave of exploration leases trying to be turned into mining leases, and then mining leases trying to get environmental studies done, and those studies going through the EES process. And I suppose that'd be my concern, is industry's geared up and it's coming, and as a state, are we prepared for that? Between what you do, John, and by the way, I think you do a great job, just a plug there, that there are other departments concerned, and is everyone going to be geared up for this? Because people, the investment stream's coming, and if we delay it, we're going to miss it. So I think it's really critical for the state.
Ian, while you've got the mic there, I mean, do we have the talent in Victoria to do these studies, to get our facts up to the acceptable level for investment? How are we looking?
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly. The people of this state can achieve anything given the right room and given the ability to show what they can do. And I suppose that's the concern, is industry is going to move so fast on this, and the investment's coming so quick. Can we keep up?
Yeah. John, can you?
That's on me to work across government, and my minister's been pretty clear with me, and she's taken it up with her cabinet colleagues. Recovery requires us to get behind all the opportunities, and that requires not me doing my bit to get it through to our part of the fence. It's really to work across government, and we've done a few things. You'll see a bit more, Ian, in the next little while in terms of how we're bringing, I guess, the bureaucracy across government together to make sure that bow wave, that what comes out of that's smooth. Because the windows, we know, they open and close pretty quickly, and we want to grab them because recovery is a huge thing, a huge challenge ahead, and why would we walk away from the opportunities that are here on the table and the wallets are out? We've got a lot of hard work to monetise all of that, but we're up for it, and we look forward to working with industry on that one.
Ian Holland, have you thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. and thanks for the question, Ian.
Was there a question there? I didn't. Go on.
Statement, question.
We liked it anyway.
Reflection.
Yeah.
So I think clearly there's a role for government in that, and that's the point that is being made. I think there's absolutely a role for industry in thinking about that as well, and that's that. It is for us to win hearts and minds.
Yes.
I think and I might get the language wrong, but the community development program that has just been announced by KL is a fantastic initiative along those lines, because what we all want is and for our industry to be sustainable and sustained, is that the communities that we live in and operate in are better for our presence, so that we're welcomed. And our absence would be felt. So.
Yeah, and that was a $12 million community fund, wasn't it, Elizabeth Lewis-Gray? You're nodding at me? Yep, good. Well done, Kirkland Lake. Campbell, can I throw something at you then? How are you going recruiting people over the journey? You're bringing Victorian FIFO people back home? Is it a really attractive place to bring professionals?
Oh, look, yeah, it is. Referring to my earlier comment, it's not a desert, it's not a jungle.
Yeah.
It's 2.5 hours from the most livable city in the world with good infrastructure, good schools, good hospital. You can pick up a block of land and a 5-bedroom house for 200 or 300 grand out there. That's pretty interesting. And so I remember having this discussion with Troy Cole, our GM in the early days. He was worried about employment, and having spent some time in mining abroad, I just said, look, if we have any problems, I'll put a small ad in the Santiago Times, get 1,000 world-class miners applying. So there's not a problem there, but we got most of the guys back, so a lot of that memory was still there. We grabbed the good ones while we could, and it was great to see these world-class jumbo operators. They were so happy not to be digging fence post holes and DSC in the Grampians anymore, so they were coming back. We got all the good guys back, and I think it's tightening now.
Yep.
It's tightening certainly for geologists. So, but we are recruiting if there's any geologists out there.
Gee, that's 2 nice things you said about geologists today.
I know, 3 strikes and you're out, right?
I got one more.
We've got time for
one
one
question
last
out here.
question.
Yeah.
G'day, Richard. James Churnside, Dart Mining. Question for John. Can you just give us a bit of an update on what GeoVic's up to, and particularly the interpretation on the Northeast Deep Seismic Reflection Survey?
Wow, that's
Might have to get
pretty
Ross Cayley up for that.
Nice hits, Cherny, by the way. Well
Ross
done.
Cayley, where are you?
Absolutely.
Can we take that one offline? I'll come and have a chat to you, and I'll grab my geologist to let you know where we're up to. Lots of exciting work. But
There's a big tall bloke with a ponytail here that you should
he's not
collar.
hard to miss.
You won't miss him.
Yeah, that's
Cherny wouldn't be reasonably invested in that part of the world, would he, by any chance?
do we have... Sorry.
No, thanks.
Yeah.
Richard, I think that's it for our questions today. It's my great pleasure to introduce Patrick Smith from AMC Consultants to deliver a vote of thanks to our panel.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, John. Thank you, Campbell. And thank you, Richard. Fantastic to get your insights into the gold sector in Victoria, your insights as explorers, as operators, and as regulators. You and your peers are leading, you and your peers at other mining companies and explorers are driving the Victorian mining resurgence. After more than a year without Melbourne Mining Club events, it is great to be back in Victoria, back here in the Melbourne Town Hall, acknowledging the success of the Victorian mining sector, particularly the success of Victoria, the Golden State. Members and guests, could you please join me in thanking Ian Holland, John Krbaleski, and Campbell Olsen. Thank you. We have some thank you gifts for the panelists, and in keeping with a COVID-safe handover, they're currently sitting on the floor near their chairs. And perhaps if you would like to stand up and hold your gifts, Paul could take a photo of you.
Stand. Hold the gifts. All right.
The stall gift.
Where's Paul? Here comes Paul.
Sure.
Better not be olive oil.
Well, hopefully I haven't got it upside down.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Welcome back to the Melbourne Mining Club.